Just how incompetent was the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service at the Trump shooting? Even worse than you might have thought. And I've got the absolute incontrovertible proof captured on video, plus a bonus. How you can acquire dangerous competence with a handgun, competence far in excess of what the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service displayed recently, so that you and your family are genuinely hard to kill. Hey folks, Attorney Andrew Branca here with the Law of Self-Defense, where we teach you how to be hard to kill and hard to convict. I'm seeing a lot of excuses for the pathetic response of the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service in the immediate aftermath of the Trump shooting, especially the video of the inability of one particular female agent to safely manipulate her service pistol to the point of almost shooting herself in the hand. So today I'll contextualize that video of the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service gun handling incompetence by contrasting it with video of the gunfight associated gun handling of a simple uniformed street cop out of Seattle. I have two videos I'd like to contrast with all of you. The first video is of the purportedly elite female U.S. Secret Service agent attempting to reholster her gun into her badge instead of into her holster. The second is of the gun handling of regular run-of-the-mill street cops, this one out of Seattle PD. And this cop demonstrates outstanding gun handling technique immediately after doing a mag dump into a minor attracted person who pulled a gun while being subject to lawful arrest. So first, here's the video of the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service gun handling. And let's note, the agent here was not involved in any fighting. She never fired a round. She never had a round fired at her. She was never under any apparent imminent threat. So here's her video. It's the woman here in the middle. You'll see she gets her gun out. She goes to reholster her gun, can't do it, points the muzzle at her hand, and then pretends like she wasn't just trying to holster. There she goes again, pointing the muzzle at her hand in slow motion now. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is simply grotesquely unsafe gun handling. She can't even holster her gun, even when looking down at the holster. In fact, as we saw, at times she's pointing the muzzle of her gun directly at her own hand. If she were shooting at a competitive handgun match where I was a safety officer, I'd disqualify her and send her home immediately, as any competent safety officer would do, indeed would be duty bound to do. Muzzling yourself or anybody else at any match is the most guaranteed way to end your shooting day immediately. Now, in contrast, I have this second video of an arrest of a minor attracted person by Seattle police. Now, before I run the video, I want to share with you an image of what these cops were faced with the moment they approached the suspect who had been lured to a hotel room with the promise of illicit relations with a minor. The moment this guy sees the cops, he reaches into his jacket and begins to pull out a gun. That's the imminent deadly force threat these cops were facing from the first moment they approach this suspect. So with that context, here is the video of a street cop who was obliged to do a mag dump on this suspect who presented a pistol in the context where two other officers are also engaged in this gunfight. So you're going to see a ton of shooting happen right here. And immediately after neutralizing the threat this suspect presented, this cop, whose body camera footage we're watching, effectively performs a perfect tactical reload, a technique that requires far more fine motor skills than simply reholstering one's service pistol in one's service holster. So here we go with this video.
Thank you.
And here's the reload.
Shots fired, goes back down. Help the officer.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect tactical reload. An amazing contrast. In the first video, a purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service agent who has not been in any confrontation is simply unable to reholster her gun and is muzzling her own hand in the process. That, of course, is this. She simply is incompetent in the handling of this gun. She's trying to put it in her badge and comes close to shooting herself in the hand. In the second video, we have this cop empty his gun into a pistol-armed suspect, presenting as an imminent deadly force threat to lawful arrest. And when he's done with all this shooting, and his colleagues doing all this shooting, and note, they have to be careful not to shoot each other here as well, he performs this perfect tactical reload, hopping off the gun, getting ready to re-engage if necessary. What a difference between those two. And the second is just a uniformed street cop, not to denigrate his status. But isn't the purportedly elite U.S. Secret Service supposed to be operating on a completely different level than a typical street cop? Food for thought right there. I know which of these two I'd want guarding my president. Okay, now at the start of this video, I promised to share with you the secret of how to be competent, dangerously competent, rather than incompetent with a handgun, even under stress. And the answer is really very straightforward. Repetition. Do the work. Just do the work. One of the many things I learned from decades in handgun competition shooting is that you don't need to be a world-class athlete, a Navy SEAL, or have any natural talent to be dangerously competent with a handgun. You mostly just need to do the work, which in this context simply means do the repetitions. This doesn't require an intense effort on your part, but it does require a consistent effort. A few minutes of dry firing, including tactical reloads, creates the unconscious competence that carries you through the stress of a life and death confrontation. Consistency in training is the secret here. It's a lot more important how recently you trained a skill than how intensively you trained a skill. And don't tell me you don't have 5 or 10 minutes a day to make yourself harder to kill and harder to convict. We both know you can make that happen. You just need to want to make that happen. By the way, back when I was shooting competitively, I always instantly knew who had been doing the work, especially if they'd just started doing the work, because you saw this amazingly abrupt elevation in their level of competitiveness. Invariably, there was one major change in that shooter, and it wasn't the gun or the trigger or the sights or the ammo or the recoil spring or the holster or the glasses or the ear protection. It was always one thing. It was because they'd begun to consistently do the work, to invest the time. So that's my advice. That's the secret here to become dangerously competent with a handgun. Simply do the work. And dry firing is free, folks. That is ultimately what makes you genuinely hard to kill and, by extension, hard to convict as well. Now, if you'd like to learn even more about how to make yourself hard to kill and hard to convict, then I encourage you to pick up a free copy of our best-selling book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles. This is 5-star rated on Amazon, but Amazon will charge you $25 or so for the book, as well as shipping and handling. Don't do that. We want to give this book to you for free. It translates the legalese of self-defense into plain English. We only ask that you cover the cost of getting the book to you. The book itself is free. You can grab your free copy of The Law of Self-Defense Principles right now at lawofselfdefense.com/free book.